continuous basis, operate, maintain, upgrade, refurbish, and rehabilitate our infrastructure. This set of assets infrastructure operate 24/7, 365. At one stage, we have to take this system out, maintain it, upgrade it, and refurbish it. Because we operate this system round the clock, it goes beyond saying that as we do so, some areas, some parts of our value chain will therefore be affected at a given period of time at varying degrees. In certain instances, I get this often, that although we do maintenance, there are areas that are not affected because maintenance is specific to an area and it's informed by our maintenance program. How do we then decide what tool do we use to make a determination as to what are we maintaining, where are we maintaining, and when are we maintaining? Rainwater, for a number of years, we have adopted what we call asset life cycle management program or strategy. In essence, this asset life cycle management strategy, it informs what we call infrastructure development program that looks at an infrastructure that we need to maintain, upgrade, and refurbish in the now and going forward. This strategy is divided into 3 phases. The first phase is called the baseline phase. In essence, in this baseline phase, we plan in advance. Our planning is of 20-year cycles. So the infrastructure that we laid, and I'll speak to that a bit later on, is infrastructure that we planned in 2009. So our upgrades goes on as periodic cycles of about 20 years. So in the baseline phase, we plan, we can get all these plans into programs, into projects, we execute, and then we upgrade our infrastructure to meet the current and the future demands. So what we have seen to give fruition to the baseline phase, you'll recall in 2023 in February, as Rainwater, we launched the biggest in the world, a post-tension pre-stress concrete reservoir at 210 megaliters. This storage facility is in Vlakfontein Farm, and we call it Vlakfontein Reservoir in Ekurhuleni. It's intended as part of our upgrade to augment the system to store water for now and going forward. It helps the Mapleton system, specifically Ekurhuleni, Pretoria East, and our municipalities in Mpumalanga. The second flagship project as part of our upgrade, so that we don't talk about these life cycle strategies. I'm giving you living examples of the things that we have delivered. In December last year, we have launched the biggest purification works since the dawn of democracy at 600 megaliters here in Vereeniging in Zekerbosch. And indeed, that project will be finally completed and will derive the whole benefit of 600 megaliters of water a day. And next year already, we are taking close to 150 million liters and slightly more from Zekerbosch. So that gives effect to the first phase of our infrastructure, which we call baseline. The second phase and the third phase, which is why we're here, the second phase is the operations maintenance and include repairs in it. If we have infrastructure and you're going to operate around the clock, you have to take it out for maintenance, and for few reasons, and I'll just mention 2. One, any asset that you lay, whether it's civil, whether it's mechanical, whether it's automation, and otherwise, it got a lifespan. And that asset, for it to take you, and so that we can make it sweat to derive the most benefit out of it, for it to take you to its end of life project or cycle, rather, you have to maintain it. So there are two types of maintenance, planned and unplanned maintenance. If you don't do planned maintenance, the infrastructure takes it out. It's unplanned maintenance. So for the infrastructure to reach its end of life, you have to proactively do maintenance, but to avoid, which is the second reason, the unnecessary and many breakdowns that are not planned, unscheduled, you have to do planned maintenance. So to avoid breakdowns and ensure that we get most out of the assets and supply water, for now and beyond, we have to do planned maintenance. You'll see, if you look at the program that we have issued, there's an element of repairs and maintenance that comes with it. But most importantly as well, the last phase of our asset lifecycle management strategy is what we call end-of-life phase. In the end-of-life phase, what you do condition assessment. You look at the assets and the infrastructure that you can repair, renew, rehabilitate, to even take you beyond their life cycle. So we have also done that. And then you'll see in the program what we have come out with from the condition assessment is what we call renewable strategy. In here, you have assets that need to be replaced and refurbished. So we have taken an opportunity as we do maintenance to look at those assets that need to be replaced, to be refurbished, so that they take us beyond their life over and above the maintenance that we are doing. So in totality, what we are doing refurbishment, we are doing replacement, we are doing maintenance. Why now? And this is the question that I get asked almost all the time. Some people are saying, why didn't you do it during the elections? Some people are saying, why did you do it before the elections? Of course, ours is not driven by the political timetable. Ours is driven by our plans in terms of asset lifecycle management. And indeed, from time to time, like you do with your car, if it can take you a little bit longer before you take it out, you do. But we choose this period of time because, theoretically speaking, during the winter months, the demand drops. So we want, during this period of time, to do all these maintenance repairs and ensure that when we get to the summer months, we have been able to do the repairs to an extent possible, meet all the growth demands and the water usages in those months. So we choose, if you like, this period of time to ensure that we keep our maintenance going. So if you look at, if I may, before I step down, in terms of the program that we have started at the tail end of this month, which is June, and we've really been hard at work, and it has been communicated extensively, and even through our various platforms, you'll notice that we communicate as and when we move from one area to another. I'm happy to report that since we started quite a number of interventions, particularly in the Aikenhof system that has affected Johannesburg water, most of the work has been completed. The system is recovering. We understand, and it's understandable, that some areas will recover before the others, and some areas will recover later. Because as we have explained before, that when you take out the system, you completely empty the pipes and the reservoirs run low. You first have to fill the reservoirs, the reservoir fill the pipes, then push water into the distribution network. So invariably, areas that need pressure, that need high amounts of water storage in our reservoirs and Joburg water reservoirs, we will take a bit of time. And the MD will indicate what those areas are that are still needing to recover, and those that have, of course, recovered. As it has been indicated, we are going to start work in the Palmit system. This is the biggest of all 4 systems. And I think what we will do to help the Aikenhof system recover, will move water around so that we have additional water that we can supply into the Aikenhof system to enable it to recover while we have reduced the Palmit water supply. So we anticipate that areas that will be affected in the Palmit system, as I indicated, will be the city of Ekurhuleni and some parts of Johannesburg. You'll notice that in all the systems, not every area is affected. We are looking at the areas that will only be affected during this period of time. What I also need to mention is that the interventions are relatively different in one area or another. And what we have also done in terms of our civil infrastructure, our pipe network, we always strive to ensure that there's flexibility in our network. By flexibility, we're talking about what is known as load shifting. In essence, a term that was publicized last year, it's not a new thing to us. We have network of pipes. These pipes can feed one system to another interchangeably. So our process controllers in our control rooms are always looking at the system, looking at where the demands are, and in areas where the demand is higher, whereas on the others are lower, the process controllers are able to move water around. If our pipes are not connected, we'll not be able to do so. So you will see in most areas we're talking flexibility of our pipelines. What we're also doing during this period of time is what we call tie-ins. Remember, in terms of the first phase, which is the baseline phase, as rainwater, and you must have seen a lot of pipes everywhere in our area of operation. We've been laying all these pipes. So what we need to do is to have them tie in, connect with other pipes so that we can start using them. We have not been able to connect them during high demands, so this will give us that flexibility. So there's an element of it in what we want to do. We've also gone into some of our purification works, specifically in Vereeniging, where we've been cleaning our sedimentation tanks. Sedimentation is one of the process of treating water, and we believe if we do so and we remove a lot of silt, it will give us an additional treatment capacity, and indeed, areas that are dependent on Vereeniging water system will have an increased amount of water. We're also doing a lot of electrical works in terms of the boards that we're installing, mechanical works, and of course switch gears, and we are also replacing a lot of meters in the program as we go along, and mechanically we're also repairing some of our pumps and replacing those pumps. So at a high level, this is what we are doing. We are doing it for the benefit of water supply, assurance of supply going forward, so that we don't have too many failures that are unplanned. So it is important that we do so proactively. We do understand that there will be those that are inconvenienced. As the president is saying, it's a short-term pain for a long-term gain. We do need to go through this sacrifice, because in the longest of terms, when we do maintenance, when we do repairs, when we renew, rehabilitate our infrastructure, we will reduce, indeed, substantially the number of outages. So we just want to request all those that are affected or may be affected going forward to bear with us. We understand the pain and suffering when the system does not recover. We understand water is a basic human right and it has to be in our households, but we are working together with all our municipalities. That is why we gathered here, to ensure at the system level, seamlessly, to an extent possible, everybody is affected to a very least of the extent. So for those that have water, it is important that the message also gets through to you. Use that water sparingly. Please, it's winter. I want to believe that the automatic systems that fill your pools are off. And if you can, please use water for drinking water purposes for individuals and water in the homes. We need that water to move it around in the shortest possible time to ensure that the system recovers quickly. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Msai. We are going to get the status update from the City of Johannesburg through the MD for Joburg Ward, Mr. Mkwewo.
Thank you very much, and good morning. From Johannesburg water side, the work that Rainwater has been doing thus far, firstly, their system that they worked, I think, to run about the 22nd, 23rd of June, which is Dale-side system. That's where I want to start, because if I can just give a background, that particular system, how does it interface with City of Johannesburg? Dale-side system supplies City of Johannesburg the area around Orange Farm, Ennerdale, and Lowly. So the work, of course, was done as the CE indicated and completed. We didn't really have much challenge there in terms of recovery. I can report that that area recovered early last week already, and we were able to start supplying the area of Orange Farm, area of Ennerdale and Lowly, the way we supply. Of course, some of the people that knows that area, and of course the residents, they know that the area has got its own challenges that we are dealing with, which is issues of high demand as a result of illegal activities, informal settlement that goes up in that area, which is a separate issue altogether. But from the maintenance that Rainwater was doing, the work was completed, and we're able to really get that system to operate the way it should. Let me move now to Eckenhoff system. If you look at Eckenhoff system, which the City of Rainwater has presented, this particular system supplies, in terms of volume, about 60% of City of Johannesburg. So it means we can really understand the magnitude of the system. City of Johannesburg demand on daily basis, the overall demand is almost 1,700 megaliters. So 60% of that volume goes through Eckenhoff pump station. And which area does it supply? The Eckenhoff pump station supplies Lenasia, it supplies Greater Soweto, it supplies Greater Roodepoort, Greater Randburg, as well as the western part of the city, which is area around Brixton, Westdean, and so on. So this is, from the coverage point of view, it's about 60% of the volume. So that's why always, whenever there is interruption in the area, it takes long to really bring back the system. So I can indicate that from the work that Rainwater was doing from the 24th, Monday the 24th, at Eckenhoff, as well as Waterval, which is part of this particular area in Joburg that I've indicated. The major impact, really, we felt it on Thursday and Friday. And I'm mentioning that, I'm not necessarily saying before that there were no areas that were impacted. Some of the areas were impacted before that. But Thursday and Friday, that's where most of this system that I've indicated were impacted, especially the Greater Randburg area. We really had issues there in Greater Randburg area, where some of our reservoirs, tower, Thursday, Friday, already they were empty. And then we really also experienced challenges in the commando system. This is the system really that supplies our Brixton Reservoir, our Crosby Reservoir, as well as the Hestill reservoirs. So these are the areas that were really experienced serious challenges in the last week. Of course, the area like Soweto, as I've indicated, is part of this. There were parts of Soweto also that experienced challenges as a result, of course, of the reduced volume because of the maintenance that's currently happening. So where are we as of this morning? So as of this morning, we started seeing recovery coming through in all those areas that were affected. From Saturday, slowly the system were coming back. I must indicate that if you look at Soweto, let me start with Lenasia. That's the area that really recovered much earlier once rainwater started pumping at about 83%, which was about on the 27th. So we could see that area coming back. And also, this parts of Soweto that were also impacted, we have seen recovery in those particular areas, and we don't currently have major challenges as most of the reservoirs have some form of storage, even though it may not necessarily be back at normal capacity. As the CEO of Renwa indicated that once there's interruption, it really takes time to bring back the system back to full capacity. We have also seen recovery happening around Randburg and Rodipo Greater Roadbot area, except of course 2 towers. This is the tower, what we refer to as Waterfall Tower, and it supplies the area like Brakbon, as well as part of North Cliff. We've also noticed that in the area of Kwelna Tower, which is also in that area, we're still also experiencing challenges there. This area like Fairland and also still another part of North Cliff. So those are the area around the Randburg Rodiport area that are still affected. But we are hoping that, of course, with the intervention that has been done by Rainwater today, which I'll explain a bit later, we are expecting that the 2 areas that I've mentioned for Quellerina Tower, as well as Waterfall Tower, we should be able to start pumping and be able to get water to those 2 areas. The other area that is still impacted is the commando system. And I'm sure members of the media, residents of the city, you've heard us as the city of Johannesburg talking about commando system. This is the system that's really, whenever we have any form of interruption in Eckenhof, that's where we start seeing it, because it's a very vulnerable system which requires some upgrades, and those upgrades are currently happening, which I'll also be able to explain to you what is it that's happening. So the reason being, if you look at that particular system, commando, as I said, is the Brixton Reservoir, is the Crosby Reservoir, as well as Hestill Reservoir. There is certain volume that we need to get through the pipeline that goes to those 3 reservoirs. And of course, with the reduced volume, because of maintenance that's happening, you'll find that as much as we see the rainwater is pumping 83% or pumping at 75%, there'll be areas that are getting water, but that system really struggles. We get volume far less than what we need to get then. And the reason being, the way the system is designed currently and interconnected, that particular area, for it to get the volume that we require, it depends, of course, on the level upstream of the overall system, which, of course, we know when we are doing maintenance, you'll find that you are not able to get reservoirs upstream to those levels that the system can be able to be fully pressurized, because that volume is able to come through when the system is fully pressurized. So as much as we have that commando system getting water from the same pipeline. I think it is very important for me to raise this because we hear question also coming from members of the community where they'll say to us, but we see Brixton Reservoir, it seems to be recovering faster than Hestill. Why is it like that? Because we are all on the same pipeline. We see Crosby recovering faster than Hestill. Why is it like that? Because we are on the same pipeline. Because as I've indicated, the three reservoirs are really part of the same bigger system called Commando. The reason for that is very simple. As I've said, if you look at that pipeline, for it to be able to get to about 2,500 kiloliter per hour, we need really level upstream to be at a certain level for it to be fully pressurized. So if it's not fully pressurized, the volume that is coming through, it ends up mostly going towards Crosby Reservoir. For a simple reason, because Hestill Reservoir is situating higher than Crosby Reservoir. And these are some of the weaknesses that we are going to be addressing through the investment that we are doing as City of Johannesburg. Because if you look at Brixton, why it recovers quicker? Simply because we pump from Crosby to Brixton. So we want to correct this as part of the infrastructure upgrade, which is currently happening, where the city is investing about 700 million for that. What are we doing? Of course, about the storage that we're improving, which is the new tower, the new reservoir, which is in construction already at 45% in terms of physical progress. We are also going to be installing a new pipeline, really linking with rainwater infrastructure coming to City of Johannesburg. We are also going to be constructing a new pump station, which will then be pumping water to Hestill, so that we don't have necessarily to rely on the gravity line coming through all the way to Hestill. So in future, with the work that's going on currently, we will be pumping water from the line that's coming from rainwater going to Hestill reservoirs. And why do we need to do that? So that this system can be able to operate like other systems, so that it doesn't necessarily have to rely on the perfect scenario where the system is really at very healthy, because that's how currently it operates. So these are some of the work that we are doing so that we can be able to make sure that in the medium term, that particular system is operating differently. So what is it that's happening so that we can be able to assist or we can be able to recover our Hestill system? With the work that our colleagues are doing, rainwater in Palmit, they were able to, of course, to be pushing more volume towards this area that goes towards Randburg Rodiport area, which in turn will be able to assist the commando system. So this is the work that we're monitoring today, because that issue of additional volume, so that we can be able to recover that system, started in the morning. But we are also, from the City of Johannesburg, acknowledging that with the maintenance that's currently happening, we will also be looking on our side where we may need to throttle more some of the system, especially around Randburg side, so that we can help Hestill, because they are all part of the one bigger system. If we're able to throttle on the Randburg report side, we will be able really to get the more volume that we require in the commando system. So that's where we are from the City of Johannesburg point of view. And I'm not necessarily touching the work that happening on the other part of the city, because that work only started today, as the CEO indicated, for Palmit. But what we have done, we've made sure that leading to today, the reservoirs in Midrand, reservoirs in Senten, Greater Senten, because they are part of the system that we spoke about, which is the biggest system that they have. So we make sure that we really fill those reservoirs to top water level, so that we can be able to have some time before we get to a point of no water. So in those areas that are still affected, of course, we've got water tankers that we are distributing in those areas, so that we can be able to make sure that the residents have some form of access to water while we are working on the issue of making sure that the system really recovers. The second issue that I must just indicate as a way of illustrating the magnitude of this system for area that's supplied by Ekenhof in the city of Johannesburg. If you look at the overall storage that the city has, we store, on average, when things are fine, you find that we are storing almost 1,600 megaliters of water. So today, as of this morning, we are about at 665 megaliters, which is 42%. And why is it 42%? In the main, it simply is because this other system, as much as we're on the recovery stage, they are still on the lower side, and we need to continuously monitoring them so that we can be able to get back to the normal operating level. So that's where I'm going to stop, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mkwebo. That was the status update for City of Joburg, where the maintenance project has begun in earnest. As it has already been announced, the project is moving to the City of Tshwane and City of Ekurhuleni. And we are going to get the plans from the two cities to mitigate the impact of the disruptions associated with this maintenance. So I'm going to call upon, in that order, the representative from the City of Tshwane, Vuyo Zituman, and she will be followed by the representative from the City of Ekurhuleni, Mbali Matiwane. As soon as she's done, Mbali will come forward to give, to outline the plans from the city. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Unlike the city of Johannesburg, we don't have too much explanation to do at this stage because the program has not commenced yet. Safe to say that as the city of Tshwane, we embrace and support this initiative because we draw 78% of our water supply from the Rand water line. So we have an obligation to support the initiative. I'll just indicate that we have a very good working relationship with Rand Water, both at a strategic and technical level. We have an existing memorandum of understanding, and amongst other interventions is the reduction of non-revenue water losses, and we have been working very closely with them. And that has yielded positive results. As at December 2023, our water losses were standing at 36.7%. As at end of June, the report indicates that there has been some reduction, though not as significant as we would have wanted it to be, while standing at 36.1%. We have received the plan from Rand Water for this initiative. As I indicated, we have not commenced with it, but we have put in place plans to deal with any contingencies that will be as a result of this initiative. So let me end there for now.
Thank you. Good morning, colleagues. I'm Mbali Matiwane from City of Ekurhuleni. As the other metros have indicated, we are in full support of this maintenance work that is happening throughout our system. It has also given us an opportunity to just do any quick maintenance work in the systems that are affected during this shutdown so that we don't inconvenience the customers more than they are already. So as the city as indicated, we appreciate the issue of water supply, the constraints that the system, the whole Rand water system is undergoing, and as a result, our key focus is on the reduction of the non-revenue water, which is both the physical leaks and the commercial losses. We're focusing on reducing the total system input volume, which is the total bulk purchases that we are buying from rainwater on a daily basis. We're also focusing on increasing our billed volumes. So we work a lot on metering to ensure that all customers are connected on an authorized system and are billed and metered accordingly. As a result, currently, as the city, we're standing at 29.7% of non-revenue water, and our water losses are just below 24%. So this is our daily bread that we preach amongst each other. The total system capacity that Ekurhuleni has is just below 1,000 megaliters per day that we can store. It's 974. So the operating capacity as of today, we are at about 54%, which is just over 500 megaliters a day. And that is excluding the direct feeds that we have, which are about 80 of the direct feeds. We all know Ekurhuleni. We all know City of Ekurhuleni is housing a lot of industries. We have a lot of production that is taking place, food production, and other materials that are supplied from the city. So on our top 100 customers, we are housing your SA breweries, Coca-Cola, Tiger Brands, Nature's Food. We're also supplying water to Joburg in a cross-boundary agreement, and vice versa, with the Joburg also supplying us at our critical sites. To prepare for this big shutdown, the city convened a top 100 user workshop or stakeholder engagement, where we just took through the big users of the magnitude of the work, how is it going to affect them, and what do we need from them in order to prepare for this maintenance work. So in our bylaws, we have got a clause 40 of the City of Ekurhuleni's Water Services bylaw. It deals with internal storage capacity. And we do a lot of monitoring to push the industries to comply to this requirement, which asks for 36 hours of internal storage. So they are daily equivalent that will last them for at least 3 days. They must be able to have that storage in cases of interruptions such as this one, which are unavoidable and necessary. So on the 21st of June, we had that engagement. We had a good turnout from industry in terms of their support, but also encouraging industry to avoid the use, other uses of potable water for things like washing trucks. You can imagine they deal with a lot of specialized fleet. So encourage that they must look at alternative water to do those kind of things. A lot of cooling towers that they are using potable water, which is unnecessary. So we just encourage them to re-engineer their processes to still produce the same quality, but using less water. We always have good case studies. We've had one from Kellogg's. I know they've changed the name. I forgot what they're called. I think Kellanova, that's what they're called now. Coca-Cola has also previously presented on how they've re-engineered processes to produce the same bottle of Coke using less water. So in terms of this shutdown, planned shutdown, Ekurhuleni is supplied by 3 rainwater systems, Mapleton, Palmit, and Zwartkopies. So on the major, or where we struggle a lot, we've got majority of industries is in the Mapleton system. Palmit, we have just Wadeville and Isando, most industries, but Mapleton is the whole of the Springs, Brakpan, Nigel industries that get affected. Last week we started with maintenance. A sword copy system, there was no interruption at all. The customers did not even notice there was work being done. It also gave us opportunity to work on our 2 pumps at North Mid Pump Station, just to do a quick refurbishment during the outage. And over the weekend, from Friday evening, we had, the 24th, we had work done at affecting Germiston, the J7 pipeline from rainwater. Also the weekend, we did not have sleepless night. It went through swiftly. There was great communication between the rainwater team and the city in terms of progress and areas affected and how we're dealing with them. So we have completed that maintenance work successfully. Today, we started with another big part of Palmit, and this is affecting Germiston, CBD, your Kempton areas, Edenvale, Bedford View. So on Palmit, most of our systems are stable. The only sensitive system is Primrose, and obviously the direct feeds get affected easier when we have shut down because there's no storage. However, this morning, the only report we have received is the Hilltop pumping system that is affected, which is very small. We deal with it with only 4 water tankers. And it's expected because it's at the critical point of the system, it's one of the highest points. So if there's reduced pumping as it is now, they get affected immediately. Otherwise, the rest of the city seems to be holding fine, and we're crossing fingers that by 4 o'clock, when the maintenance is done, we'll have minimal interruption. The big interruption that will affect the city on Palmit is on the 15th and the 29th of July. Because of extended hours, about 39 hours for one of those maintenance work, we obviously foresee that we'll have depletion of some storage systems, but it's not stopping pumping at all, it's only reduced pumping. So we will also monitor the system to see the impact, but Palmit does not disappoint. And then Mapleton, Mapleton gets everyone gray hair once it's down. The big ones, there's on the 5th of July, we're having 14 hours shut down, but it's also reduced pumping. We have prepared that will increase the storage on our reservoirs. We are also reducing the outgoing flow by 40 to 50% on the critical systems, just so that we manage what is coming in and what is going out. The systems that are difficult, we also stop pumping at night, and we just to avoid feeding leaks unnecessarily at a time like this, and we open again in the morning. There is a lot of communication with our councillors, so all our regional managers have councillor groups, WhatsApp groups with all councillors where we just feed them information timelessly. We also work with councillors with the location of water tankers as they agree with the community. The industry, we've also, as I've said, they'll be using the internal storage. We can't supply them with tankers. However, where they have their own tankers and need to refill from the system, we've got metered connections where we'll bill them for that storage as and when they need it. I think that is all the issues from Ekurhuleni. Other programs will just continue, which is the normal non-revenue water action plan, which is speedy repair of leaks, servicing of our valves, monitoring our system via the telemetry, and continuing with the normal day-to-day activities. Thank you.
Thank you, City of Tshwane and City of Ekurhuleni. We can now move to Q&A. I'm going to take the first round from the floor, and the next round will be from our virtual platform, and they will alternate like that. Okay, just as a reminder, you will have to identify yourself and the media house you're representing, and then ask your question. But you may also identify the panelist you are directing your question to. I think that will be easier. Okay, can I get an indication of hands? That will be the first one, the second one, the third, the fourth. So the fourth will be in use. So I'll take those 4.
My name is Matthew Chaba from Jacaranda FM. My question is directed to the CEO in the city of Tshwane. I think we are particularly interested in knowing what the mitigation measures are in that city, because as it stands, Tshwane already has water issues where, for example, areas like Johannesburg and the likes, which I don't know if they're affected immediately, but there's already tankering. What exactly does Tshwane have in place to mitigate against the water interruptions that are expected? I don't think we got that out of the earlier presentation. I think that's my question.
It's Brayton here from Netwerk 24. Just to Johannesburg Water, in your latest business plan, you indicated that you need about 63.9 billion rand over the next 10 years for maintenance. Where is that money going to come from? And also, maybe just speak about the vulnerability of the system. And then also just another one for Dr. Phillips. What is being done at national level to address water losses? And then just to each municipality present, what is being spent on water tankers? Thank you so much.
Hi, this is Mobile from Newsroom Africa. Mine was already covered there at the top by Mr. Chaba, which with regards to City of Tshwane. Please could you perhaps just give us details on that? And then to add to that, I would like to just find out from the City of Johannesburg. They spoke about the fact that they'll be throttling Randburg to try and help. But at this moment, as I speak to you, there's some areas in Randburg that doesn't even have a single drop of water. How are you sorting that out, especially in the areas of Linden? Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Papedila Marani from EACA. I believe my colleagues have covered the better part of the questions that I had, but I think it's very much important if you could also allude as to how much money have you used as current water in this particular project, and to the municipalities that are here, the issue of infrastructure has been a serious concern. What is it that you're planning in terms of, trying to resuscitate this particular infrastructure? What are your plans in the future? Because I had Judith Water earlier on alluding to the fact that they need about 700 million. Up until when do you need that money, and what's your plan in terms of addressing the issue of infrastructure? And you also, as Serene Water, supply water to some parts of the northwestern Free State. When are you taking these repairs, this program, to those provinces? Thank you.
Okay, thanks for the questions. We'll start with the City of Tshwane, followed by Joburg Water, followed by rainwater, and then DG Phillips will come last. In that order.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
The question
Okay, sorry.
what is our mitigation plan? Or should I come there? Okay. So I don't.
For the sake of
Thank you very much for the question. What is the mitigation plan that we're putting in place, especially Hammanskraal? I knew that I'm not going to escape this one. The first thing that, in fact, we do have a plan. The most important is a simple thing of over-communicating. Firstly, people must be aware that there is this intervention that has been planned, which is going to lead into water disruption. So we will over-communicate, but also will raise a high level of awareness that people must preserve the legal that they have. That is very important. Water tankering, unfortunately, is the only solution that we have as a mitigating plan. But coming specifically to Hammanskraal, because that's a special project. Currently, we're supplying water through water tankers, and it's something that we're really not favoring as an institution. It's very costly and very difficult to manage. We're even looking at a feasibility of insourcing that service and probably buy our own water trucks and dispense with the water. But in the medium to long term, we have engaged CSIR as well as Water Research Commission to look at alternative sources of water supply. There is a technology that we're currently testing, and we hope that if the results are positive, we'll be able to divert our attention from water tankering to those alternative sources of water, including borehole. We're doing a number of studies in that regard. In the long term, you are aware of the Rooiwal project, which has since been revived. We're working very closely with the Development Bank of South Africa. They are our implementing agent, and I'm happy to say about 40% of the outstanding work has been completed. That project is going smoothly. We hope that before the end of the year, at least the quality of water that goes into the river, it will be improved. So there are a number of initiatives that we're looking at, even phase 2 of Rooiwal, which is going to look not only in the quality improvement, but also giving us additional megaliters. So there is a plan for Hammanskraal, and it's moving quite smoothly.
Bomkwebo.
Thank you. The first question relating to the investment that needs to go to the water infrastructure in the city of Johannesburg, to the tune of about just over 60 billion over 10 years period. Indeed, that's what we need to invest if we really want to improve our infrastructure. And I'll explain this. You've heard also from the Sea of Rainwater that from the assets management plan, when you're talking about the water utility, you don't talk about 3 years, 2 years. It's just not good enough. You need to be talking about minimum 10 years, 20 years, and so on. Because some of this infrastructure really are mega infrastructure that takes very long time from feasibility planning to the actual implementation. So when you look at that 63 billion rand, it's very important to get the context around it. It doesn't necessarily mean that the total amount is going to the current infrastructure. We need to be able to unpack it, and when we unpack it, for the next 10 years or so, we need to be investing almost 30 billion on our renewal of our current assets. This is renewal and rehabilitation. So effectively, we need to be able to go to an investment of about 3 billion per annum if we need to clear the backlog that we have. And of course, this backlog came through about issues of underinvestment over the years. So what is the difference? This other 30 billion really talks to the issue of infrastructure expansion, or where we are increasing the capacity. You'll know that as a water utility, and of course for the city of Johannesburg, in order for the city of Johannesburg to grow, economy-wise, to grow in terms of the development that are happening in the city, we need to be ahead of the curve as the water utility. Ahead of the curve in providing the bulk infrastructure. That's really required for the city to be able to grow. So the other 30 billion rand is the projection around where we need to build new capacity for our wastewater treatment works, where we need to make sure that in the next 5 years, we are bringing about 150 megaliters total capacity in terms of new reservoirs that we need, where we need to make sure that we are bringing new pipelines that will be going to areas like Lanzeria and so on, where there need to be a new development. So that 62 billion is issues of infra rehabilitation plus the issue of new infrastructure that's required in order to facilitate growth of the city. So the question was, I thought I should give context. The question was, where are we going to get money? Because of course, if you look at our business plan, you're quite right. We are investing at a rate of about 1 billion rand per annum. 1 billion, 1.2 billion per annum. Of course, over a 10-year period, we won't be able to get to that number that we aim to get to in order for us to get our infrastructure to the level that we require. So what we have done, we have started looking at a different approach, because if you look at 1 billion rand that we invest, this is the 1 billion rand that's allocated to the entity through the Council of City of Johannesburg. So this is the funding really that comes through the normal system of following council in terms of allocation of resources. So the different approach that we are looking at a mechanism where we really need to be looking at the off-balance sheet in terms of the investment. These are the issue of the PPP that we are pursuing, especially for the mega projects, looking at the issue of the expansion of capacity and so on. We are looking at the issue of also performance-based contracts, especially on non-revenue water, because we are saying we can be able to partner with those that be able to bring the necessary funding that we require to sort out the issue of non-revenue water, and we can then be able to pay them afterwards based on the return that we are getting. And these two initiatives that I've spoken about is an initiative that we are working and engaging together with DWS as well as National Treasury through their unit called GTEC. And it's an initiative that we've started with the process of planning, where we can be able to get the professional team who can be able to assist us with this particular process. So this is the direction that we are going. But above that, I must indicate also that some of you may, of course, have heard that the National Treasury have issued a guiding note to metros, which focuses on investment, or it focuses on the operation of trading services. What do I mean by trading services? Trading services is water, electricity, and solid waste. This guiding note that was issued a few months back, for the first year, which is the year that started today, the financial year, is looking at water in all the 8 metros. So what National Treasury is saying that metros, the business for water needs to be run differently. Differently in the sense that the revenue that is billed as well as collected from water, most of it needs to go back to water. That's what national government is saying. Of course, you know that municipalities in the main generate its income from rates, water, and electricity. So it means if there's no bias of putting back what comes from water more to water, you find that resources get used for other things within a setup of a municipality. So the National Treasury is expecting all the metro to submit the turnaround plan around that journey of reforms, which will be looking at more investment in the water infrastructure. And from City of Johannesburg, I must indicate that at the entity level, that reform has been approved by the board, the turnaround plan, which talking to that. Because National Treasury has got milestone to say by end of July, a turnaround plan from each metro must be already be approved by council or at a council level. And of course, by September, you need to have an investment plan which will be able to be showing how you're going to increase your investment in water as a metro. So these are the work that we are doing already so that to make sure that we comply as well. And really it answers the question also to say, where are you going to be able to get more resources? Because within the resources that comes through or the revenue that get generated and collected from water, these reforms are saying more of it needs to go back to water. And we are on track as City of Johannesburg to make sure that we submit to our council this month, which is sitting around about mid this month, that particular turnaround, which will really be talking to them. And I think that's a very exciting approach, especially for water sector, because what it simply means is that there should be able to be more resources in really dealing with the issue of investment or infrastructure within water. But of course, we'll need to do other things more, which those turnaround plan talks to it, issues of making sure we deal with the issue of billing everybody, we collect, we increase collection and so on, because that resource is going to come from those aspects. And these are the things that those turnaround plan talks to. There was also a question around how much this is costing us for water tanker. At this point, really, it is very difficult to say. These are the numbers that we'll totally write at the end, based on the impact that we see, because as I say, the impact is not the same across the city. But these are the figures that we can put to share. But the water tanker, of course, per day, if my numbers, I remember correctly, it's costing the region of about 3,500 a water tanker per day. That's roughly what it costs to have a water tanker running for the whole day. So the issue of the rent back, yes, indeed, as I've indicated earlier, rent back was affected, specifically also the area around our storage reservoirs for Linden, as well as Blackguard and so on. So if there are areas right now that are still not having water, our teams will be going there. It will be an issue of airlock, because as of this morning, and we started seeing this recovery from yesterday. As of this morning, if you look at Linden 1 reservoir, we're sitting at 65%. You look at Linden 2 reservoir, we're sitting at 68% in terms of capacity. So we were really progressing very well in terms of recovery. Kingston B, we were sitting at about 30% of the reservoir, the tower sitting at about 65%. So the whole area should have water around that area. But we have got teams on the ground. As you know, whenever there are interruption of this magnitude and the system gets empty, you end up dealing with the issue of airlock afterwards, which we have teams on the ground that are busy flushing the system so that we can be able to get water everywhere. So the point that I was indicating basically through this concept of throwing rent back, so you can see that rent back is recovering very well. We don't want a situation whereby as this maintenance is carrying on until roughly the 12th for Eckenhof, we sit and do nothing about assisting people of Hestel 2, which are the people around Emaracia, Auckland Park, Greenside, and so on. And that system for Randback, as well as the system for Commando, they are all interlinked. They are all in the one main system of rainwater. So what we aim to do is to make sure that because the relief that I've talked about for 300 megaliter that Honor is pushing is happening because on the other side of of Palmit, they are able to do that because today they are busy with the maintenance. But going forward, we are going to find a way of trying to balance the two systems, the Commando as well as Randback, so that we don't have a situation where only Commando or Hestel, they sit without water at all for this period, whereas in other systems have started coming back. The 700 million, there was a question I've already answered in the main around where are we going to be raising investment, dealing with the issue of investment. But the question was also 700, do you have the money on? 700, we have the money, is the project that happened. As I've indicated, the tower and the reservoir, it's already happening. We've even taken certain media houses that responded to our invite to take them through that particular project, where the reservoir and the tower is up. And we are currently in the process of starting the procurement process for the bulk pipeline as well as the pump station for Hest Hill. And that particular project, we are aiming that come January, construction will be starting. So it is what has been budgeted. It's a project that will be able to fund it in our business plan. Thank you very much.
And Water CE. To be followed by Water and Sanitation Director General, Dr. Phillips.
Yes, with your permission, after me, Program Director, I'm going to ask our COO to respond to the numbers, but really at a high level. I just want to indicate that we, as Rainwater, specifically around the numbers, we spend north of 300 million on repairs and maintenance alone. This excludes the budget that we have for R&R, repairs, refurbishment, and capital upgrade. That number oscillates around north of 30 billion in the next 5 years. And if you look at our capital program, you'll notice that in that period of time, those are the amounts of money that we will be spending. And part of this maintenance, as I indicated, we are already tying in some of the infrastructure and the pipelines that we have already laid through our capital program. So although it's a maintenance program, but we are also leveraging on the capital that we have put in place. Most of this is obviously internal. We would have contractors here and there, but the bulk of it is the work that we are doing internally within the grand scheme of things insofar as our repairs and maintenance is concerned. And in terms of Free State or Northwest, of course, as I indicate, this is a major, if you like, maintenance program. There's minor maintenance and there's major maintenance. Major maintenance, you feel the pinch, but maintenance takes place round the clock with all those municipalities in the Free State and indeed in the Northwest. So I don't know if you want to add, but if you look at the sedimentation tank in Vereeniging, that is intended to supply Van der Bijl, Vereeniging system, which of course our Free State municipalities such as Parys, Mwate, specifically to the area that we supply in there, are currently benefiting. Thank you.
Okay, the COO of Rainwater has indicated that he's satisfied with the response from the CE. So let's welcome Dr. Phillips.
Thank you, Mandla. There was one question which was addressed to me, which is what is being done at national level to address water losses. Firstly, what we're talking about here is water losses of treated water. So we, through building dams, capture raw, untreated water. We sell that water to the water boards. Rainwater treats the water. There isn't much of a problem of water losses in Rainwater's systems. Their water losses are very low. Their systems are very well maintained. They're in the region of 3 or 4%, the Rainwater's water losses. The big problem with regard to water losses is in the municipal distribution systems. As you heard from the CEO of Joburg Water, the metropolitan municipalities and other municipalities struggle to have sufficient money to be able to adequately maintain their infrastructure and to do things like replace very old, large distribution pipes which are leaking a lot of water. And as he indicated, the solution to that is to get more private sector finance involved, to partner with private sector finance so that we can address that funding gap. In that regard, we've partnered with SALGA and the Development Bank to set up a Water Partnerships Office, which is currently operational. It's housed at the DBSA, and its role is to provide support to municipalities to implement partnerships, to develop and implement partnerships with the private sector. In particular, the Water Partnerships Office has developed a standardized non-revenue water program And so far, quite a few of the metros have signed up for the program, including the city of Tshwane, Mangaung, Nelson Mandela Bay, Buffalo City, and eThekwini. As indicated by the CEO of Joburg Water, they are already far advanced in developing a performance-based contract to mobilize private sector funding to help them to reduce non-revenue water, and they're doing that with the GTAC unit in National Treasury. The second thing that we're doing is that we have developed amendments to the Water Services Act, which have been through a public consultation process and will be presented to the new cabinet for approval to submit to Parliament, to be processed by Parliament. Some of the key amendments in the Water Services Act include strengthening the role of municipalities as water services authority to ensure that their water service providers provide an adequate level of service. And in that regard, the draft amendment bill includes a provision for water services authorities to only approve licensed water service providers, even if they're the water service providers themselves. And we will create that operating license system as the national department and implement it. The purpose of that operating license system will be to ensure that water service providers, whether internal municipal water service providers or external ones, have a minimum level of capability, which includes running the systems so that they don't have high levels of losses. And then finally, you heard the CEO of Joburg Water talk about the circular that they received from National Treasury. That's part of a broader reform process that National Treasury is driving, called the reform of trading services, focusing initially on metropolitan municipalities. But the aim of that reform is to get to a situation where trading services such as water and sanitation are run in a more business-like way at municipal level and in the metros, which means that the head of water and sanitation is able to have control over their supply chain processes, their recruitment, is able to ensure, as the CEO of Joburg Water said, that they get at least a major fraction of the funds that are obtained from the sale of water. So with all of these different initiatives together, the intention is to turn around the water services sector and to result in a situation where there are much fewer, there's a much lower level of losses in the system, increased revenue collection from the sale of water, and increased direction of those revenues to maintenance of municipal infrastructure.
Thank you, Dr. Phillips. The next round, we are going to draw questions from the visual platform. We'll take up to 5, Sis Lady, if you can read them out.
The reduced pumping period. I'll repeat the question. How I'll repeat the question. How will you monitor the reservoir levels during the reduced pumping period? The second question, what measures are in place to ensure reservoir levels stabilize quickly after the interruption? The third question relates to impacts on residents. What specific areas in linked fields are expected to be most affected? How will the water interruptions specifically impact residential areas versus commercial or industrial areas? The
last question relates to water tankers. It says, under what circumstances will Johannesburg Water dispatch water tankers, and how will the locations for water tankers be determined and communicated? Thank you.
Okay, the people who asked the questions were not identified, and so were the panelists to whom those questions were directed. But I guess we can start with the metros. For Joburg, they did even identify certain areas which could be affected, and we could clarify on.
Thank you. The first question relating to how do we monitor this reservoir level during reduced pumping period. We have a telemetry system in Joburg, which that telemetry system we able to gather data around our reservoir levels in real time. So what we have done during this period, because under normal circumstances, of course, at management level, they get their reports every morning, it's like 7 o'clock, and again every afternoon, 3 o'clock, so that they're able to know how the system is and so on. But what we've done during this period, as we're going through this, is that those reports have been programmed that they are received every 2 hours, so that at least every 2 hours we know what's happening throughout the whole city. And I must indicate that we also have people above the alarms that, of course, the team in operation receives through this telemetry system whenever the reservoir is getting low and so on. We have team that really also monitor this 24 hours of a day, so that whenever certain intervention is done, that may be either throttling and so on, it's able to be done. The issue around how are we going to make sure that we stabilize the system fast after the shutdown. I mean, you've noticed that there is a lot of engagement between the bulk supplier, which is rainwater, and ourselves as municipality. In fact, I must indicate that there is a daily meeting, 8 o'clock every day, which is chaired at very high level, and it's attended by senior people between rainwater and the metros. And that meeting specifically is to coordinate, because I always say this is a one big system. So we need to, as Johannesburg Water, we have interest to understand what's happening in Kuruleni and so on, because it's one big system, and rainwater need to coordinate as such. So that meeting is primary mandate is also to try and make sure that they stabilize the system on an ongoing basis. But of course, once we go through this, they'll be going back to their mandate with the issue of dealing with the demand, which we're trying to reduce in the overall system. The issue of the links field, I've got colleagues of mine here, Logan, who can deal with that to say which area exactly in links field is going to be affected. So water tankers, we've really communicated intensively, even before the shutdown started, around the water tankers. Where each area can be able to get their water tanker in terms of the stationary tanks, the number that we've provided, as well as the number for water tanker, and where exactly we're placing those stationary tanks. I think this is the information that you can be able to get from our website. You can also be able to get from the social media platforms. But we've also distributed through community WhatsApp group through the councillors. I must indicate that for those locations that we've provided is the location that we said with councillors, and we agreed to say this is the location that will be able to be more practical and possibly conducive for most of the residents. So there were participation of communities through councillors in terms of guiding us as to where we should be able to place those water tankers. Thank you.
Thank you, MD. So colleagues, the question was regarding to Linksfield Reservoir, which particular areas it feeds. Before I answer that, I think one must be mindful of the fact that the reservoir feeds a large area, but it does not mean through this planned maintenance that there will be no flow coming into the reservoir. There will be reduced flow coming in, so it does not mean that when I cite a particular area that it necessarily will not have water. But should the reservoir encounter problems and go to a critical low level or empty, the following areas will be impacted. It's the Linksfield area, Q, Savoy Estate, Highlands North, Orange Grove, Sydenham, parts of Norwood, Orchards and Abbotsford. There's also a small portion that Linksfield feeds into Ekurhuleni, that's more on the Morning Hill district. But just bear in mind that should the reservoir go to critical low levels, people will experience poor pressures to no water. Only if the reservoir does go empty during this planned maintenance shutdown will those areas experience no water. But as we said, our mitigation is to communicate and to deploy water tankers to the affected areas. Regarding the commercial and residential hub, remember the reservoirs or the water supply districts feed a combination of commercial customers as well as residential customers. That's the same footprint throughout Tshwane and Ekurhuleni as well. But nonetheless, we provide water tanking to critical installations, more geared up for the hospitals that are under the control of the city of Johannesburg or province, and then the residential customers, including old age homes, etc., etc. When it comes to commercial customers, especially large or medium industries, they should have some sort of storage to carry them through their processes. Thank you.
City of Ekurhuleni, and followed by City of Tshwane.
Thanks. I think MD covered and Logan just measures in place to monitor. The system is the same. We're using telemetry. It's remote monitoring, so at any given time, we are able to monitor the storage levels on the reservoirs throughout the day, and this is assisting us to communicate also with the councillors, so that there is expectation. They know when it's critically low, and they know when the system is recovering. So we're using the same system. In terms of measures in place to ensure stability after maintenance work, I think there are standard operating procedures for that, and releasing air is the key action that we do to just make sure when the system recharges, there is no air and the water can flow quicker to the critical points. We also rely a lot on councillors on the ground in terms of areas that are constrained and where we require more water tankers. I must mention the Mapleton system. That is a difficult system for us, and interruption there can take up to 10 days for that system to be fully restored. That is because the reservoir level that is required to pressurize that system needs to be at a certain point at any given time. So those are the delays we get, and that affects your Tsakane areas at the most, but most of the system doesn't struggle to recharge. In terms of plea from customers and industry, we've made a plea to industry already, I've covered earlier. And for residential, I think, colleagues, for God's sake, we can switch off the sprinklers. It's winter. Our lovely grass and gardens can survive this month without getting water, because most of them are automated sprinklers, and you see as you drive by during the day, anytime, there is unnecessary watering of gardens, and I think that is one key message to send out to residential. Thanks.
Yes, City of Tshwane.
Okay, thanks. Still morning. Okay, it's afternoon. Afternoon, everyone. My name is Busiso Mabase. the acting group head for water and sanitation in Tshwane. So just respond to the preparedness of the city. You know, ours is coming, but we've already prepared ourselves. We've got also a telemetry system in all our water reservoirs where we monitor the levels. But sometimes when the teams are there on site, they also check manual so that we are sure of the levels. The reservoirs will be filled 80% a few days prior to the shutdown. And then we'll be restricting the reservoirs, the outlets during the shutdown. And we'll also ensure our water treatment plants like Rodeplat and Ridgevlei are optimally operating. And then we'll also, as the CEO has mentioned, that for now we will dispatch roaming water tankers as an alternative water supply to the affected areas. And we are all updating the ward councillors through the WhatsApp portals, social media, so everybody will be aware. So I think I can just mention that for now. We are ready.
Okay, thank you. Can we take another round from the floor? If any, otherwise we must complete the questions from the visual platform, if we still have some. So can you please read all of them?
Thank you, Dr. Matibula. There are questions on the virtual platform. This time they have the owner, it's Nazia David. And the question is not specific to who should answer it. It's just a question. It doesn't indicate who should answer it. It says, alternative water supply. Can you provide a detailed plan for the alternative water supply arrangements at hospitals, clinics, schools, municipal offices, police stations, and shopping centers? The second question from the same author, it says, what steps should residents take to prepare for potential water shortages? And this one is for Joburg Water. It's about communication. It comes from Nazia Davis as well. And it says, how will Johannesburg Water keep residents informed about the status? The last question from Andrew, which just came in, it says, no mention by Joburg Water MD about Joburg South and Crown Garden status. Please provide an update as no water for a week. I guess it meant as there has been no water for a week. Those are the questions, Doctor. Thank you.
I think some have already been answered, but just to add to what has already been said, can we start with Joburg Water? Yeah, Tshwane, they've covered. Ekurhuleni, you want to add also? But generally, it's something that I think there is that question of hospitals, clinics, and shopping centers. I know Joburg Water did respond to it partially. So.
Thank you very much. That first question, alternative water supply plan that I've referred to, which we have shared it using various platforms. In our communication around it, we're very clear that indeed there are certain key installations that we are prioritizing. which some of the mentioned here, it's indeed those installations like hospitals, clinics, and so on. So you'll find that we are placing water tankers there at the clinic, or a stationary tank there at the clinic, which we fill it on a daily basis until the situation is normalized. And in hospitals, some of them public hospitals that are affected, we even send a high pressure pump so that we can be able to pump to their own storage, those that have storage, because by law they must have their own storage. And what we have done as well, we've been in communication with even all the hospitals, including private hospital. For private hospital, our communication, our engagement with them, indeed, prior to the shutdown, was issue of discussing with them their own contingency plan to assess it, and encouraging them also to say they must really assist us by mobilizing water tanker from their end, and will assist them with the filling point. So all those